You're listening to the Kingdom Project Podcast. These are discussions on biblical theology and interpretation. The emphasis is on context and grace. The goal is to promote biblical literacy by displacing and debunking most modern interpretations. The challenge is to engage in healthy conversation that may stretch but sharpen iron. This is the Kingdom Project, and I'm your host, Marcus Hall. Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Kingdom Project Podcast. All right, guys, check out the description below in PayPal stuff. Hit us up on Facebook. Check out Instagram. I don't put a link to that, I don't think. Just find us. You'll find us. It's all good. We have a conundrum. We have an issue. We have an issue here. All right. Yes. The other day at church, I started. Although the sermon, it's not recorded, but I record. I didn't record. Marcus, get your stuff together. I presented a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding before we went into our discussion, and I had planned originally to do a whole Sunday morning on misinterpretations. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to make the pulpit my priority of doing things like that and debunking. I've got the podcast, that's fine. I've got Facebook, I can do that. I can do it from time to time, little subjects. It's only going to take 2 minutes to point these things out and what it, the origin or whatever, or what the Bible actually says about it. So I could do it before sermons. So I said, hey, I could do this thing before we actually go into our teaching. So let me give you one. And I started with Lucifer. Okay, I said, who's Lucifer? Everyone said the devil, of course. All right. Well, okay, so here's this word, and it is a word. It's not a name. It's this title, but it's only in the King James or New King James Bibles, and it's in Isaiah 14:12. All right. So, and it says, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer." Now, anywhere else, the translation of Lucifer is morning star or shining one. It's a description of the Hebrew morning star, which most people think they were referring to an actual star, which is Venus. And King James translation was translated from the Latin Vulgate. Okay, so rather than actual Hebrew. But here's the thing, in its historical context, if you look this up, if you have a commentary, all right, it's talking about a king and all this. Did I have it pulled up here? Yeah, right here. Okay, 12. Isaiah 14:12 and 15. Using rich poetic imagery, the king of Babylon is addressed with sarcastic irony. From the great heights of his pride, arrogance, and rebellion against God, his downfall brings him to the depths of Sheol, the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. In Canaanite mythology, the god sat in assembly on a northern mountain, like the Most High. Okay, so this is the fallen king of Babylon. Not a huge issue there. That's okay. So somebody asked, what about the devil, though? Okay, what about the devil? He's an angel. An angel that caused a third of other angels to fall from heaven. Said, well, no, not exactly. Therefore, thus we have a conundrum. What is going on here? Okay. Well, if Lucifer is a morning star, was actually historically speaking about a Babylonian key. All right. But we've also been taught that Lucifer, who is the devil, caused a rebellion in heaven. And in this rebellion, he caused a third of the angels to go with him. But it does not have merit, any merit whatsoever when it comes to Scripture. It only has merit in the Hebrew mysticism and myths and from the book of Enoch. In which Enoch actually says nothing about Lucifer. But it does speak of an angel that caused a rebellion, and his name was Azazel. Azazel. But this was also a reason why it wasn't in the canon of Scripture, because it's full of myths and mysticism. All right, so where do we get, besides that, where do we get that? Well, we get it from Revelation chapter 12 and verse 4. And so I'm going to go there. Let's see, I can move my bookmark here out because we're going to come. All right. Oh, no, I lost it. Revelation 12, 4. Okay. Well, let's start. Let's start at 12, verse 1. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore the child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. And then it goes on, now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. And he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in the heaven saying, now the salvation and power of the kingdom of our God and authority of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. Okay. Here's the issue here. Revelation 12, a woman who gives birth and a dragon intent on destroying this offspring. This is the first vision portrays this decisive battle at a timing or a turning point of history when Christ's incarnation, obedience, sacrifice, and exaltation forever disqualified Satan as the accuser of believers, is what this commentary says. This is about Jesus being born. Revelation 12. So this dragon is waiting to devour this child. But the child's caught up with God to his throne. This is the promised Messiah who's born to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And he's not destroyed by the dragon, but is exalted to God's throne. So, and then the child's mother fled into the wilderness. It's a setting in which God's people are dependent on him and protected from the dragon's rage. So there's this war then that breaks out. Michael and heaven's armies defeat the dragon. And this is revealing in more detail Christ's victory and the dragon's ongoing attempt to destroy the people of God. But in Daniel, Michael is the spiritual prince and guardian of God's people. Daniel 10, okay? And Jude 9 identifies Michael as the archangel, attributing him to words that echo the angel of the Lord's answer to Satan the accuser. But futurists think that Michael's battle with the dragon marks the beginning of the time of trouble, which is the Great Tribulation. However, this is done because this is, if we say this is about Satan rebelling in heaven as an angel and then taking a third of the angels with him in this rebellion, then it's something, if you're a futurist, then this has not happened yet. That's a problem. Also, if you take the eschatology away from it, this is problematic because it's going on as now. You have to remember, Revelation isn't all just future prophecy, even if it was happened in 70 AD or in the far distant 2,000 millennia later. Okay, he is seeing things that, hey, you'll see, record things you've seen, what you're seeing and what you will see and whatnot. This is the beginning, I guess. I'm misquoting it, but there's things that are happening, that there's past things that he is seeing here. And he is seeing this great sign, this Revelation 12 sign about the birth of the Messiah. And it says it in all good commentaries, and this is just an ESV commentary. So, and then it says there, for his tail swept down a third of the stars. Evil spirits in league with Satan share his defeat and downfall before the forces of God. So, and then it says, some interpreters think this refers to the original fall of Satan, but it's taking place. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. So he sweeps, his tail sweeps a third of the stars of heaven and casts them down to earth, but he stands before the woman waiting for her to give birth. He doesn't get cast out. That doesn't make sense, okay? So we will look at the text, though, that it says in 2 Peter 2:4 and Jude 6. And then it says, and perhaps Isaiah 14, but we already went through that. Okay, so this is to use Revelation chapter 12:4 is only inference of this ideal, and is not found anywhere in Scripture. And also we have to take into account the symbolic nature of the book of Revelation and apocalyptic language and the timeline in which is taking place. And here is about Mary giving birth to the Messiah. So we have to be able to understand that to know what's going on. And then we are told also at the beginning of Revelation that the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, which most believe refers to the leading messengers or preachers, not literal angels or stars. And the word translated angels is also messengers, so it can be actual men, actual pastors of these churches. And this is the only time it's found in Scripture, and to translate it as fallen angels, you have to tie quite a few other things together by doing bad interpretation. Okay, you got to do bad interpretive gymnastics. you're eisegeting. Instead of exegeting, you would be eisegeting, which would be imposing your thoughts onto the text. Proper study of the scripture teaches that we don't build a doctrine on just one verse, right? Even 2 is not great. We need to have 3. But there's just simply no clear evidence of a third of the angels falling from heaven, period, in the Bible. It's not there, right? We also have to take note that when God in the Old Testament was speaking about stars in the heavens, he likened it to Abraham's seed, right? So there are scholars that believe here that in Revelation it's referring to a third of the nation of Israel being slain and being destroyed by the Romans. That happened in the 42.5-month war that took place between 67 and 70 AD. But there's also a ton of other meanings, all right? So there are a lot of different ideas about all of this, but to come up with most of it, we actually have to read into the text what we want it to mean rather than read out what is actually written. So let us then look at Jude 6 and 2 Peter. Let's do 2 Peter here. 2 Peter, I'm going by reference. 2 Peter 2:4. Okay? For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. Well, if there are fallen angels, then God did not spare them when they sinned. He actually cast them into hell here, which hell is not hell. We only have the word hell in English, so here I'm not exact. It could be Sheol or Hades. I'm not sure here because I don't have everything pulled up, but he did not spare angels when they sinned. If they rebelled, he cast them into hell and committed them to chains, it says, to be kept until the judgment. Okay? So, we got to consider that. That's so irritating. So, then we can go to Jude 6. And the angel who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Okay, so what's going on? I mean, okay, there's apparently angels who did not stay within their own position of authority and rebelled against God's authority and sought to do other things. But God has kept these beings in eternal chains ever since. Okay, so if that's the case, they did not come to if there was a rebellion of angels and a third were cast down, they weren't cast down to earth to wreak havoc. Now, this does not negate demonic activities, okay? I'm just saying, the Bible does not say that the devil was an angel that set out to rebel and take over heaven and then was cast out of heaven and cast to earth along with a third of the angels. It's just not there. The only other place you can go, I believe, if I'm wrong, send me an email or comment on Instagram or Facebook. The only other place would be Ezekiel 28. I'm not going to read it all, but any good commentary says this is a prophecy, or well, even the title, a prophecy against the prince of Tyre, and it says this is about that prince. That's it. It's not about the devil. So, 28 28:13. All right. It's putting Tyre in Eden, the Garden of God, forges a link with Genesis, but avoids connecting pagan Tyre with the Garden of Yahweh, as in Genesis 13 and Isaiah 51 and all this. And he's talking about all the precious gems and just being so beautiful. And we've heard that Lucifer, the devil, was just the most beautiful angel of all, in charge of worship in heaven. It's not there. This here says it's like he is likened to a cherubim guarding Eden. And it parallels similar list in Exodus of composition of the breastplate of the priestly garments and all this. And but trade and violence triggered a downfall of this admirable person, this prince. Conundrum. So that brings me to my final point here. It's not there. You can't find it. What's going on? Why is Enoch not in the canon when the Bible quotes it? Because it's full of myths and mysticism. A lot of our theology, not a lot, some of our theology is also steeped in myth, mistranslation, misinterpretation, and mysticism, I would suppose, okay, from the Hebrews and from books like Enoch and from Dante's Inferno and Milton's Paradise Lost. We started calling the devil Lucifer after those two books, secular books, I might add, just works of these books, okay? Dante's Inferno, I'm sure you've read it. I have. Paradise Lost, I've read it too. They called the devil Lucifer. Then Christians started calling the devil Lucifer. That is the history here. That's the history when it comes to the devil. We use Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno to get most of our information to describe what we think the Bible is saying about something that we want to say is the devil. That's the issue. It's not there. So who's the devil? It's not even a name. Lucifer's not a name. Satan's not a name. Devil's not a name. It all means adversary. All means oppressor, oppose, accuser. And Satan did say, I saw him fall from heaven. That's it. Or Satan. Jesus says he saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Okay, so we have that bit of information. But Jesus, it also says that he was a murderer from the very beginning. That means he was always evil. He was never good. He could have never have been an angel, because if you're a murderer from the very beginning, or a liar and a father of all lies, then you were never good, if that was your beginning. This brings me to something that a while back I said, well, I probably won't touch that or dive into it, but I have been. The divine council, the sons of God, who are they? What does it mean? What's going on? There's a lot of good, interesting articles and studies on this. Michael Heiser has done a lot. I've listened to that. The Bible Project dove into it some, and I mentioned that on that podcast, and a listener started listening to it. It was like, very interesting indeed. I don't know. I just don't know. Wasn't ready, I guess, to bite that piece off. But there's information in this that we need to probably try to figure out. So I will try to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean that anytime soon there will be an episode on this, because there is a lot to study. I've already been touching on it and looking into it in my spare time when I'm not doing sermon preparation and then drive-through study stuff, because those are all different. So I'm just adding something else into the mix, which is quite okay because I read and study all the time. That's what I do. But there's something going on because there's nothing in the Bible, like I said, that points to this. So who are the sons of God that took the daughters of men? Who are these sons of God and this divine council that it talks about? That or gods, little g gods, but would die merely as men. It says the Son of God, the sons of God took these daughters of men to have for themselves and had this weird race of children. And from there, it just gets crazy, right? So, the devil, we don't know his origins. There's so many times, though, in the Bible, the devil just means adversary, means opposition, to me means against God. All right, I believe that accuser of the brethren, all right, Satan's synagogue in Revelation is the temple. He's referring to the temple there before it got destroyed in 70 AD. The accuser of the brethren, we know also is the law, because the law will accuse and it arouses sin. And it was about to finally end in 70 AD. But there's, Jesus called Peter the devil. He just meant he was opposing his plan. Get behind me, Satan. He just meant, hey, you're opposing my plan of what has to happen. So get behind me. It means a lot of things. I am not fully convinced anymore that most of the time when we read the devil, that it's this devil. Pretty sure this temptation in the desert with Jesus is the devil, whoever he may be. But we also know, and I read in that commentary, that Christ defeats him. He completely defeats him, all right? So in John, Colossians 2, Hebrews 2:14, it says defeat. He came to, and I've gone over this. And that episode is the devil dead. He's defeated. It means abolished, to render powerless. He has nothing, no power whatsoever. But why do we have this tradition of this being a fallen angel and being in charge of worship and the most beautiful angel that there was, and this pride and this jealousy, and he wants to take over, so he causes a rebellion and causes a third of the angels to follow him, and then they get cast down to heaven, or from heaven to earth, when it's not there. It's not in the Bible. It's not there at all. And if you use Revelation 12 as your proof text for it, then you're missing thousands of years there. There's a big time gap, because his tail sweeps the stars to the earth while Mary is giving birth. Interesting indeed. So I just thought I'd share that all with you guys. Let me know what you think, please. Have fun with this one, guys. It's messing with my head. All right, send your questions, your disagreements, your comments, your grievances to me at thekingdomprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Join, like, subscribe, leave a review. It would be much appreciated. And until next time, be a mustard seed, be 11. Thanks for listening.